Alrighty, so here we are. I have laid out my finished one. I've ironed it and laid it out here. By the way, I don't want you to freak out if you have some bumpy stuff in here. It is, that's all going to come out when you quilt it, but it's still pretty stiff because there's still a lot of Terreal Magic in it. So it actually will soften up and that will go away after you finish blocking it. You can watch the video I have on how to block your quilt, but all of that's not going to even be shown when you quilt it. Okay, so here's how you're going to mark it. We need to mark this in a 30.5-inch square. So I'm going to use my huge Creative Grids 20.5-inch square ruler. I'm also going to use another square ruler. This is an Omni Grid because I don't have another matching one to this. Well, I do at home, but not here. But anyway, I'm going to do these two big squares to get 30.5 inches square. So this is how I'm going to start. I'm going to take this big ruler and I'm going to move it up so that the top line of my design is at the top of my ruler. And I may end up cutting that off, or I'll barely cut it off, or I'll leave it, or I'll just barely make it. That's going to be caught. The top of those are going to be caught in the seam allowance. So that's something you're going to keep in mind. Now, I'm going to take a line on my ruler, and this line that goes straight across right here, the line that's your roof line or your ceiling line, that needs to be on a line, or it needs to be parallel to a line. Mine happens to actually be on a line, but yours just might be parallel to a line. Just depends how you lined up your design, because that's going to give me my straight. So I want to make sure I'm on that. Then I'm going to just scoot this over to the side a little bit here, because I'm going to add my other ruler into the side of it. And what I'm looking for, once I get my straight, because I can see I'm parallel to this line, so once I get my straight, and by the way, I'm actually vertical on many lines down here. So that's my object, is to get it vertical and horizontally correct before I mark it. But I need to get 30.5 inches. So in order to do that, I'm actually going to move that this way, because on this ruler is a 14-inch, this is a 15-inch square, this is a 20.5-inch square. So if I line up the edge over here where I'd like it, I only need 10 inches on this one. So that 10-inch mark, I'm going to keep my thumb on it over here, and that's going to give me my 30.5 inches. So I'm going to start out with 1.5 inches on either side past this embroidery up here, these two windows. I'm going to see it's going to be somewhere between like 1.5 inches, 1 3/4. Somewhere in there is going to be your mark where you're centering it, so you have the same amount of no embroidery on this side and the same amount of no embroidery on that side. So I'm going to start with I'll start with 1.5 inches there, and I have 2 inches here. So now I'm going to go to 1 3/4 on this side. I have from the 10, that's 1 3/4 inches. And this is 1 3/4 inches. So that's my centering on this particular one, is 1 3/4 inches. Now I'm going to hold this one so it can't move, and I'm going to move this ruler up to the edge so I can see that's where that's going to be. This is coming right down my line, so that looks great here. It is horizontally on that line, so that looks great. And this is where I want my mark to be, at 1 3/4 inches. So I'm just going to double check my measurement one more time. 1 3/4 inches is right there. Now I want to mention one more thing. If your line here and your line here are not perpendicular to each other, you have to make a decision on how you want to do it. I'm going to go with this horizontal line on the top, because I think vertically, I think when you're looking at it, that horizontal line and this horizontal line need to be correct. So I'm going to go with that top line. I'm going to go with 1 3/4 inches outside of this. 1 3/4 inches. Let me just make sure I'm in the right spot, is right there. Let me make sure this one, that's 1 3/4 inches is right there. There, that looks good. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw my line. Now, I'm going to hold this yellow ruler, the smaller one, so it cannot move. And I'm simply going to bring my ruler down. Except I just moved it, darn it. I was trying so hard not to move it. I hit, it's not strong enough. There we go. I'm going to come down here, and I'm just going to finish drawing that line all the way down. There we go. think I might need to come 1 more inch. Let's go right there. That looks perfect. Okay, so now I have it on that side. Now I'm going to have to switch sides over here to do it because I don't have a ruler, so I'm going to just come this way and line that right up on there. So I need 10 inches. That would be the 5 mark right here. I'm going to put that on my line that I've already drawn. Get it straight on. That looks pretty darn good right there. Start back up at the top. Make sure, yep, that looks perfect. Yep, that looks perfect. And I'm going to go ahead and draw this line. I'm going to hold more carefully this time the smaller ruler and just move my big ruler straight down. So the trick is if you don't ever have to pick up the ruler you're drawing on, your lines are going to really just be nice and straight. There we go. So now what I have is my 2 outside lines are drawn. Now I can either switch my fabric or switch my rulers and draw and go the opposite way. So it's just whatever you want to do. But I'm going to start here at the top. The top of the ruler is going to line up with the top of my embroidery. The top of my embroidery looks like two kind of roof lines coming in. So I'm just going to put the top of the ruler right there. And make sure my lines are straight. So I'm going to come back over here, make sure that I'm lined up with what I've already drawn. I have to be square with what I've already drawn. I'm going to hold that in. I think I need to come up just a teeny bit up. Is that touching the top there, Margot?
Just
covering
almost,
it?
yep. Not quite.
A little bit more?
You
Scooch it up more?
Yeah.
All right there. Okay, that
Oops.
looks good. That's
Yeah.
still square right there. So now I have to really lean over here, and I'm going to go ahead and draw that top line. I'm going to hold this yellow one in place so it can't move, and I'm going to scoot this over here, and I'm going to lean up here again and draw that one. Okay, then I have to switch spots for my ruler because I need 10 inches up there, which is the 5 mark. And then I'm going to come down here. So again, I'm going to make sure my ruler is on my line that I've already drawn. So that's what my square should be. Yep, that looks pretty great. I'm going to hold it right there. Here's my 30.5 is down here. And you are going to cut through one of the stones down here at the bottom, so don't be afraid. You are cutting right through it. I'm going to scoot my big ruler all the way over. It is lined up on that line, so I'm still square, and I'm going to finish it right there. Okay, let me set this aside. Let me set this aside. And this is my mark. The blue lines are where I'm going to cut my 30.5 inch square. So if you use 2 rulers, 2 big square rulers, you really can do it pretty quick. Makes it easy. And this is something that you really cannot do accurately if you're going to use a 6 by 24 inch ruler. You really need to have squares to make sure that you're getting your lines perfectly done. I'm going to cut it, border it, and start on the borders.